This is our second crochet lesson. I will leave the link to the first one below so that you can see our first one. In that one, we learned to do a chain and a single crochet. This one will require that we do a few additional stitches, and I'll demonstrate them for you. As you can see on my little box here, I've got some little flowers. They're all made with the same technique. The only difference is the combination of stitches used. And I'll show you how to put the first one together. We're going to use a simple one like this. And I'll get my tools and I'll be right back. First off, we need a contrasting yarn. This is going to be the center of our little flower. And this is going to be our little flower. To start with, we need to make a chain. And now we remember how to do that from our first lesson. And we need to chain about maybe 10. The number is not important. We need at least 5 or 6. And we want some extras because we're not going to cut our yarn. We're just going to leave it there for the time being. And we're going to make a nice big loop so we don't inadvertently undo our chain while we're working. Now, the first stitch we're going to learn is a slip stitch. We're going to take our chain. We're not going to pick the first one up here because that's actually attached to our begin. And that's attached here. We don't want that one. We want the second one. Okay. We're going to put our hook through and we're going to pull a loop. The first stitch we're going to learn is called a slip stitch. We don't yarn over or anything. We just pull a stitch through. That's simple. We'll show you that one again at the end, but the next stitch we're going to learn is called a half double crochet. This is an easy one too. Now, I'm going to do it in this one, but eventually we're going to put all of our stitches in this first loop here. You yarn over. You just simply put your hook underneath the yarn and yarn over before you enter that chain. Pull a loop up. You can see you've got two. You've got your original loop, you've got your yarn over, and you've got the loop you just pulled up, and you're going to pull through all 3 of them. That's a half double crochet. Now, let's do that again. We're going to do that in our next one. We just yarn over. In other words, instead of pulling it up from the back like this with our single crochet, we're just going to pull it, lay it over our hook, and pull it up like this. Okay? And go through all of them. Now, let's undo those all the way back to that slip stitch. Pick our original one up. Now, we want to put these half double crochets into the same space that we put the slip stitch in. Yarn over and through all 3 of them. You got that? Let's go back. Now, one thing we need to do, okay, let's start from the very beginning. We're going to pick a loop up. We're going to do a slip stitch. There's our loop. We're going to do a slip stitch, and we're going to do a chain 1. Just chain 1. Now, we're going to do a half double crochet through all 3. We're going to start to do another half double crochet, but we're going to make that a full double crochet. And a full double crochet starts with the 3 on the hook, go through 2, that gives us another 2 on there, go through 1. Real easy. Now we're going to do a half double crochet. So we've got a slip stitch, a chain 1, a half double crochet, a double crochet. Now we're going to do another half double crochet, a chain 1, and we're going to do a slip stitch. Let's look at that slip stitch again. Pull up a loop. Don't catch another hook of a bit of yarn. Just pull that loop through. There's our slip stitch. Let's do this again. We're going to go to the next chain here. We've got all those stitches in the first one here. We're going to go to the next one here. We're going to do a slip stitch. We're going to yarn over, half double crochet, double crochet. Remember the difference. This time we're going to go through 2 and then 2 more, a half double crochet through all of them, a chain 1, slip stitch back down into the original one, and now we've got 2 petals. Now let's make another 3. This little flower works best, I think, with 5 petals. You could make it with 4. You might be able to make it with 6. You can play around with this technique. Slip stitch into the next one, chain 1, half double crochet. Okay, we got 3 loops on there, all through all 3. Second one, we have 3 loops, but we're going to make a double crochet this time. Next one, half double crochet, chain 1, and slip stitch down. That gives us 3 petals. Look at that. Now I'm going to do 2 more and I'll show you how to finish it off. All right, I've got my 5 petals here. You can see them. They're a little funky looking. And I've got my yellow coming out. Now, what we're going to do on that last one that we just finished, okay, we have we slip stitched it. We did a slip stitch into that last loop there. What we want to do is we want to slip stitch so that we make a circle. And we're going to go back to that first loop that we started with. And we're going to do a slip stitch into that. Just like that. Going to give ourselves a little extra. Now, if you want to use a little extra for sewing these on, you can cut it a little bit longer and you'll have enough yarn to sew them wherever you want to sew them. And we're going to pull that snug. Then we're going to take our beginning purple and our ending purple, and we're just going to knot them together very tight. Okay? That'll pull our ring nice and snug. Now I'm just going to let those go. Now I'm going to pull the beginning of my yellow, which is right here. Okay, and here's the end of my yellow. Now I've got this chain here and I'm going to undo it all the way back to where I just have that one left. And I'm going to clip it, pull that loop through, pull it snug, and I'm going to tie it also. Do these tight so that the inside of your little flower will be nice and snug. And there we go. Get all my odds and ends in place. There's our little flower. Now, what can I do with these? I could sew these on a hat. I could put them on a barrette with a hot glue gun. I could do whatever I wanted with them. But if you're going to want to cut this off, you might give it a good twist, put a bit of hot glue there, and just clip it. And then you can put them wherever you want. Now, that's number 1. Let's try the second one. Second one starts the same way, but we're going to learn another stitch now. We're going to learn a treble. Going to start our foundation the same. One of my viewers asked me why I always start my crochet the way I do, by just simply putting my needle in and twisting. The reason I do that is if you take the time to do this, okay, and make your loop that way, if you get your tail in the wrong way and you make your loop onto the tail, it comes out easily. So to keep from making that mistake, I always just give me a twist, and my tail is down here, and I never have to worry about it. We want at least 10 of them so we have enough, a large enough piece to work with. Now, I like making these 5. Once you get the hang of making them, you might try putting more than 5 petals on. Okay, let's get our thread here. We're going to start it the same way we started the other one, not all the way back because we don't want to catch the tail. We're going to start one forward, pull up a loop, and slip stitch. This time we're going to make 2 chains. Now, a treble. A treble is sort of like a double crochet, except instead of having 1 loop, we have 2 loops. Then we go into the same spot, pull a loop up. This time, instead of having to do it twice, we'll have to do it 3 times. Pull through. Now this gets a little tricky because you might have to play around to get that through just 2. That's our first one. Next 2, 2, and there's our third one. I'm going to do this 3 times. You can do it 2 or 3 times. It depends on you. But this makes a much larger flower. Okay, through 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, through 2, and 2 more. 1 more treble. Through 2, and through 2 more, and through 2. Now, we've got 3 of them there, plus our chain. We're going to chain 2, and we're going to slip stitch back down where we were. That closes our petal off, and we've got a nice little petal there. Now, I'm going to make 4 more, and I'll be right back. All right, I have my 5 petals here using those trebles, and it's a nice little round petal. And just like the previous one, the last stitch I took, once I finish my slip stitch here, I want to slip stitch to where I began. Okay, just to finish that circle. Slip stitch, cut my yarn, give myself enough to work with, and then I'm going to tie this snugly. Now, if this were something other than a flower, I would probably worry about weaving in ends, but this little flower is going to get stitched to something or hot glued to something, and I don't need to worry about working in ends. Okay, I've got my purple done. Now, let's finish off our yellow. And before, find that tail. We're going to tie with it. Undo the chain until you've got 1 chain showing. Clip. Pull it through. Tug it. Make it snug. And give them a good tie. Nice and tight. That way that center will be nice and rounded. Okay, there we go. You can also stack like a smaller flower and one of your larger flowers. What you want to do is you want to twist that yarn, the tails of the yarn real tight. Okay, and then you can take your hook and pull them through. And you've got it stacked. Just give it a good tug and you've got it stacked. Of course, you've got a lot of yarn below. Anyway, you can have fun making these little flowers. You can try any combination of stitches you want. The only thing you have to remember is to finish that petal off, you're going to have to do a slip stitch to the chain that you were starting in, and then slip stitch to the next chain. Otherwise, it'll just be a circle. And of course, sometimes we want a circle, but we're making flowers today. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed. I will leave a link to some of my other videos that I show crochet. I will also leave a description of these 2 flowers written out as you would normally see them in a book or something, so that if you forget what you need to do, you can always Look at that. Anyway, thank you very much. If you've enjoyed this, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time with something new.